I've always been interested in spiritual archaeology, traveling to the Middle East and living there for a few years, teaching English so that I could go around archaeological places in Egypt, Israel, Syria, etc. And at university, I did Arabic and Islamic studies, which also did a lot of archaeology from pre-Islamic Arabia right up to, I think it was the Iran-Iraq war around about that time. And mediumship, I think, the first time I met Gordon Higginson, he told me, I was in a big group and he was doing a conference, and he said, I've got the name Nutberry, and he came to me and then he said, oh, it's not your surname, it's your address. He said, oh, my guide is at your flat at the moment. It was a garden flat in Glasgow, overlooking the park. He described all of that. And really from then I just couldn't get enough of it. And I've been like that ever since. I did Archie Roy's night school class in the 80s, and I was going to Gordon Higginson's classes all the time at Arthur Findlay College for many, many years and many times a year. And really, the love of mediumship's just never gone. And I've studied shamanic out-of-body and near-death experiences in the past with mediumship. And really, I suppose it's my lifeblood. I just find it so interesting to learn about. Some people travel physically, and now I just travel with the mind, mostly, and making friends with mediums and having experiences myself. And I'm looking at mediumship as a spiritually transformative phenomenon. And I'm introducing some of the contents of my book, Moses and Jesus the Shamans, Mediums. My website's jackiejoneshunt.com, and my email address is jackiejoneshunt@gmail.com. So mediumship is a spiritually transformative phenomenon. It's proven in detail in my book, Moses and Jesus the Shamans. And my talk's simply an introduction to my research, which, as I say, was on spiritually transformative nature, underlying shamanic, out-of-body, near-death experiences, and mediumship. Well, life survives in mystery and vastness beyond our comprehension, but certain questions we can ask. Who has spiritually transformative mediumistic experiences, and how long have they occurred? And what insights, glimpses, and descriptions of spirit landscapes, karmic laws, and spiritual wisdom do mediums receive from the after-death realms? Many people are aware of other spiritually transformative experiences, such as out-of-body, near-death experiences, deathbed visions, but my focus here is on how contact with communicators from the after-death realms through the sensitive gift of mediumship can change us, impacting and revolutionizing, populating and evolving our religious beliefs, thereby spiritually transforming and elevating our thought patterns and behavior, and enhancing an individual's after-death landscapes. Has anyone ever met a person who angrily condemns mediumship as the work of the devil, contacting evil, ghoulish entities? Well, I certainly have. Such critics range from fearful, devout, religious orthodox, scientists, highly educated and professional. They don't believe mediumship's an authentic, highly sensitive gift or faculty, and they believe mediums disturb or waken the sleeping dead, perhaps all sleeping till Judgment Day. And some believe those who've passed away simply cease to exist, or even exist only as a memory of God. Well, my critic, having me and my psychic mediumistic experiences interrogated twice by two dogmatic clergymen, was an ex-fiancé, a fundamentalist. Though heartbroken, and over time, I chose my greatest love, which was searching out spiritual truths through mediumship to this day. And I believe I was rewarded, because some years later, I met my husband of 30 years, who proposed on our second date. So we're very much on the same wavelengths. My guess is we've all met people who politely question or we've met people who politely question or sarcastically attack our spiritualistic beliefs and experiences. It's unsurprising, because we live in a blinkered, predominantly materialist world filtering out sensitive empathy and communication with animals and spirit or angelic communicators. Orthodoxy deliberately used biblical mistranslations to manipulate our religious beliefs and to demand unquestioning blind faith. And orthodoxy discouraged personal, direct contact with the source of spiritual knowledge, spirits and angels from many different spiritual levels. Why? Because we'd bypass orthodoxy's brainwashing authority and reject some of the list of beliefs orthodoxy demand we recite and unquestioningly accept. These man-made dogmatic beliefs, whether they call them doctrines, creeds, or articles of faith, were created at political religious councils. If different leaders had gained power, our articles of faith would be very different. Well, Gordon Higginson was a dear friend and medium in the UK, and he predicted and inspired my research and teachings, and Professor Archie Roy later wrote the foreword to this part of it. I wanted to evidence the spirituality of mediumship, to support, reassure, console, and end dogmatic religious diversity by unifying religions and spiritual beliefs under the umbrella of the most spiritually elevated, all-embracing, compassionate teachings from the most spiritually elevated angelic communicators through mediumship. To support all those criticized or ridiculed for witnessing or consulting a medium or for their own intuitive belief in the benefits of mediumship, and to reassure mediumistic people newly experiencing personal contact from loved ones and others in the after-death realms, and to console and encourage the bereaved to seek out a genuine, highly spiritually orientated, evidential medium to reduce their heartache. Sadly, we can all lose a dear friend when sharing our different spiritual beliefs, caused by lack of understanding due to lack of information. I researched and wrote, seeking to create an essential bridge to mutual understanding, proving the ancient and ongoing spiritual mediumistic transformations that relentlessly and globally give birth to and evolve humankind's religious beliefs. I reveal the corrected biblical mistranslations on blind faith and the mistranslations condemning mediumship. These pages reveal the genuineness and many facets of the psychic and mediumship, the science that proves its authenticity, and a vast array of evolving spiritual beliefs humanity has gained from mediumistic communications with celestial, non-physical spirit beings. My goal was to make Moses and Jesus the Shamans a travelogue of spiritually transformative mediumship, giving birth to religions. It's supportive information for all readers. Proving the enormous value of spiritually elevated mediumship and its enormous cornerstone influence on human spiritual and religious beliefs. Proving spiritually transformative mediumship is global, including people from all cultures. They not only occur today, but have done so since the beginning of existence, and we can expect them till the end of existence. My research reveals how and why differing angelic spirit communicators seek to guide, protect, console, advise, and continually elevate and evolve our spiritual beliefs and behavior. From the vast cosmos, my chapters reveal guiding thoughts and support, enlightenment, revelations, inspiration, ideas, and creativity pour like raindrops of thought down to us from messengers from the after-death realms. Psychics, mediums, and sensitives typically intuitively receive only snippets and interpret the spiritual guidance and after-death laws of nature at the level of their historic, cultural, and personal spiritual understanding. They progressively evolve and mature spiritually. Oceans of souls exist out there, so it's of pivotal importance we must evaluate the spiritual level of the non-physical communicator as they inhabit different hierarchical spiritual levels and landscapes in the after-death domains. Each spirit communicator should be judged by their level and breadth of compassion for all creatures. It's imperative to know Otherworldly spirit communicators, whether historic or contemporary, are from very different spiritual levels. Ancient, evolved, angelic souls filled with love for all creatures demonstrate the most elevated spirituality, unifying all religions. There are spirit, non-physical communicators of a very low to low spiritual level. There's mischievous communicators too. They may impersonate a famous person. And some communicators are more like thought forms of energy, not surviving individuals and having no dynamic ongoing personality. And there are those whose advice you would not take if they were physically alive, so don't take their advice simply because they've passed to spirit and transitioned. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the mediumship of Emanuel Swedenborg, which founded the Church of the New Jerusalem in the 18th century. As a result of Swedenborg's spiritually transformative mediumistic conversations with Jesus and angels, both in the physical and non-physical realms, the new church was founded. He was a celebrated medium, psychic and soul journey explorer of the after-death landscapes, but he did this for Europe's royalty and governments. He was a legendary prophet, mystic, genius, famous inventor and government scientist, and a true giant of channeling literature. He was commanded in countless visitations and visions from Jesus and angels to cleanse and reform Christianity, to purify it of the institutionalized, man-made teachings of the powerful Orthodox Church, who had distorted, suppressed, and corrupted Jesus's original teachings. Gifted by Jesus and angels with pioneering shamanic soul journeys to the geopsychic dimension, accessed by the utilization of his psycho-spiritual senses, awakened during his altered states of consciousness, his many books recount his spiritually transformative conversations with Jesus and angels. His vast knowledge gained during his soul journey explorations of the uncharted regions, the alternate realities or metaphysical realms that transcend time and space. He describes these hierarchical, non-physical landscapes, including their people and inhabitants. He was a prolific writer on spiritual knowledge, and his books include Heavenly Doctrine, Heaven and Hell, and many others. He learned the laws that govern the realms beyond the threshold of ordinary three-dimensional time and space, and one of them was transition or death is a law of nature. He discovered the many non-physical landscapes in the after-death dimensions are all idioplastic, meaning they're malleable and fluid, created or drawn to us by each soul's lifetime or lifetimes of predominant thought patterns and actions. And he broadly grouped these many landscapes into three categories: heaven, hell, and intermediate realms. He witnessed a thought-responsive world of externalized aspects of personality, each landscape being populated and shaped by a law of nature, the principle of perfect karmic justice, of like attracting like. It wasn't an angry, judgmental God, and it reminds me of the saying, birds of a feather flock together. A medium I know had a vision of two men in the after-death realms, and they were fueled by anger and hatred, and they were fighting for eons, until realization and questioning halted the cycle of revenge, and then they progressed their souls to the next level. It reminds me also of Jesus's description, "There are many mansions, abodes in my Father's house." Jesus's comment has parallels with Swedenborg's description of the after-death realms. And the film writer of the film What Dreams May Come, starring Robin Williams, was surely familiar with the natural laws underlying Swedenborg's after-death findings in the uncharted landscapes of non-ordinary reality, landscapes matching predominant thought patterns and actions. Swedenborg visited the non-ordinary realities of the geopsychic hierarchical landscape of spirit and angels, finding that this world has as much ontological substance as the world we perceive by our empirical senses. He also learned that good and bad beings from many after-death landscapes relentlessly seek to influence our thoughts and actions during our physical lives. Hence, we need to keep ourselves at our most positive emotional and mental level and higher spiritual level, as like attracts like, in both the physical and non-physical realms. For example, negative thoughts and emotions and actions draw to us negative energies, people and events to our own lives. And interestingly, he found souls who are close, partners, families, kindred spirits, often share positive and negative eventualities at the same time. But we have reciprocal obligations. The most spiritually elevated celestial guides give us the opportunity to raise our auric vibrations and our own after-death landscapes. Well, how? By teaching us to demonstrate the utmost compassion to all fellow living creatures. We ask for help, but likewise we are tasked to demonstrate all-embracing compassion for all other creatures, thereby raising our auric energies and our after-death landscapes. All life forms have eternal souls, all fear and feel pain, suffering and murder. It's not how intelligent any creature is, it's the fact they can all suffer and feel pain. And most multicellular animals have pain receptors and nervous systems similar to ours, and they all feel pain. All creatures have souls and eternal auric energy. Birds and animals experience dreaming sleep, which is REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, just like us fellow animals. So please help stop animal cruelty and nightmares. Mediumship's a two-way bridge for all creatures' souls to communicate. Seeing and hearing spirit people and animals had a personal, life-changing impact on me, my research and writings. My precognitive dreams since a child, my out-of-body experiences, and a drawn-out dying experience with an extensive hemorrhage, followed by further potentially fatal bodily failures, septicemia, deep vein thrombosis, blood clots on the lungs, kidney failure, and the tragic loss of our twins, and a precognitive encounter 2 days before the hemorrhage. Significantly, a male spirit gave me a choice to live or die, and I chose to stay. After the hemorrhage, I saw my recently transitioned beloved dog, Jack, and felt her warm fur, her healing body lying across my right calf. As yet, it was undiagnosed DVT. I obeyed the calm male spirit's advice when, unknown to the doctors, potentially fatal blood clots on my lungs stopped me breathing. And all I've witnessed through others' mediumship have taught me more than all my reading of countless philosophers' theories on God and the relationship of consciousness to the physical body. For me, consciousness is all beings surviving, immortal, dynamically alive, intact personality and memories, namely, all beings' indestructible soul or spirit. So energy, being everlasting and eternally transmuting in form, simply closes one chapter to open the next. Separating from the physical body, energy transmutes in form at death. Quoting my Nana's experience of leaving her body, going to spirit at death, she felt like a butterfly coming out of the chrysalis. And she told me this after she'd passed. And just to mention, Professor William Tiller, Professor Emeritus of Stanford University, his books including The Second Copernican Revolution expand the frontiers of science, proving the authenticity of mediumistic and psychic phenomena. Relating to Swedenborg, mind affecting reality, I've often found if I or others think of an event or person and choose a tarot card, the card chosen often describes the event or person in mind. This proves mind affects matter, mind affecting our reality. Statisticians seeing the tarot events tell me the odds of this happening are minuscule. I'm sure Professor Tiller was inspired by similar findings and other phenomena. Noting the inadequacies and limitations of science, his genius raised the ceiling of science to explain paranormal phenomena's authenticity. It never ceases to please me when a question is asked of the tarot cards and immediately the relevant card answers the question. Now, to just give you some examples of 19th century religious movements born of spiritual philosophy to show it's not the work of the devil, and these are delivered by celestial messengers to mediums. Joseph Smith died in 1844, an American medium. He founded the Mormon Church based on spiritual teachings he received from 1827 onwards from Angel Maroney in New York State. He founded the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. Initially, others with him witnessed this celestial messenger, and their religion is founded upon and continually fed by spiritually elevated teachings received by their mediumistic leaders. And spiritualism was also born and is fed by spirit communications. Another example is Japanese medium Miki Nakayama, passed in 1887. Entranced for a full 3 days, she received spiritual philosophy from a celestial communicator deified as Tenri, and she founded the Tenriko religious sect. It's deeply involved in mediumistic practices to gain profound spiritual knowledge and guidance. It became a branch of the ancient Shingon sect, an early branch of Shintoism. Now, to tell you about Andrew Jackson Davis, he too was a medium, healer, and psychic. He was called the Poughkeepsie Seer, and he was born in 1826 in the USA, New York. Spiritualists recognized Davis as a prophet and father of the American Lyceum movement associated with spiritualism. Mediumistically, he received spiritual communications from Emanuel Swedenborg, who'd passed away by this time, an ancient Greek healer also named Galen, and others. And Davis himself was a very successful healer. In trance, he spoke in ancient Hebrew, and this was confirmed by professors of linguistics. He wrote 5 volumes of harmonial philosophy, ending divisions between philosophy and theology. In 1848, Davis prophesied the religion of spiritualism would be born. A spirit voice told Davis, "Brother, the good work has begun. Behold, a living demonstration is born." In 1849, spirit communications to the Hydesville, New York Fox sisters led to the founding of the spiritualist religion. Arthur Conan Doyle wrote, "And the world will hail with delight the ushering in of that era when the interiors of men will be opened and the spiritual communion will be established." Further proof of the elevated spiritual purpose of many spirit communicators is Nettie Colburn. She was the President Abraham Lincoln medium from 1861 to 1863. While entranced, spirit communicators told Lincoln through Nettie to end the slavery of 6 million slaves in America with far-reaching spiritual consequences. Lincoln was convinced, saying, "My child, you possess a very singular gift, but that it is from God, I have no doubt. I think it more important than anyone present can understand." Now, there's another medium to mention, medium called John Ballow. He wrote the Cosman Bible and founded the Essenes of Cosman. It's reported Ballow was contacted by angels to cleanse himself for 10 years before his automatic writing began, founding the religious movement of the Essenes of Cosman. Luminous celestial beings filled his room, and they wrote a 900-page volume, which was published in 1882, a new Bible in the words of Jehovah and his angel ambassadors, a sacred history of the dominions of the higher and lower heavens on the earth for the past 24,000 years. There's also Reverend William Stanton Moses. He was a revered medium and automatic writer. His famous 1872 book, Spirit Teachings and Higher Aspects of Its Spiritualism, talks of like attracting like, as Swedenborg found. His spirit communicators, being highly spiritually elevated, pleaded for compassion for all creatures. Moses's works are sublimely spiritual in content. There's also Allan Kardec, who passed in 1869. He was a medium and psychical researcher and automatic writer. His 1866 book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, was mainly questions. Kardec stated the answers were spirit responses. I am wary of the dogmatic title implying total authority. All spirit communicators' answers should be judged by the breadth of compassion exhibited for all creatures. Are they from a lower spiritual level? And what answers may be human preferences, slant and interpretation, and not spirit? Moses and Jesus the Shamans offers detailed proof that spiritually transformative mediumship is global and spans the ages. Due to time limitations, it prevents us looking at the book's examples below, which include many ancient examples: ancient Egyptian, Chinese, Japanese, Indian, Greek, 7th to 12th century, 15th to 16th, and 17th to 19th. But just giving you one Egyptian example, ancient Egyptian, Akhenaten, spiritually transformative mediumship, founded the Aten cult, sun or light cult, and he was 1353 BC. Amenhotep was his original name. His angelic communications received early monotheism from a celestial being he deified. Akhenaten's spiritual writings were copied in Psalm 104 in the Christian Bible. Praise the Lord, my soul. Lord, you are clothed with splendor and majesty. The Lord wraps himself in light as with a garment. May my meditation be pleasing to him. And depending on the dates for Moses, whether it was 13th or 15th century BC, Moses or Akhenaten of the 14th century BC taught the world a spiritually revolutionary monotheistic belief in a singular God. And the ancient Egyptians obviously believed in life after death, sleep state communications, and precognitive dreams. Biblical examples of spiritually transformative mediumship are shown in countless examples of Yahweh initiating contact and speaking to a continuum of successive generations of biblical prophets, mediums. These spiritually transformative mediumistic experiences had a far-reaching spiritual legacy, particularly for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. The accounts include below personalities: from Abraham's servant to Isaac's wife to Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Joshua, Samuel, King David. Spirit or angelic messengers named Yahweh guided many generations of biblical mediums for thousands of years. Some examples are the amazing mediumistic biblical time span. We had Noah around about 2350 BC, commanded to build the ark by Yahweh. We had Abram, who changed his name to Abraham, around about 2300 or 2000 BC. He was told he'd father a nation. There's 400 to 600 years, it's believed, between Abraham and Moses. And Moses is believed to either be 13th or 15th century BC. He was told to lead the Exodus out of Egypt. And then the 12 judges, who were prophets, seers, mediums, who is believed to live between 1400 to 1000 BC. And they protected the newly forming nation after Egypt, living in Canaan. They protected them against their enemies. And then Jesus' mediumship around about 33 BC, he saw and spoke to the spirits of Elijah and Moses. He made predictions and channeled healing. There's many centuries of biblical mediumistic accounts. It's not important if any medium or prophet, oracle, seer, or judge did not exist, though archaeology and records prove so many did. The importance is the biblical scribes were deeply involved in and utterly conversant with mediumship. They were convinced that successive generations of mediums saw and spoke with a non-physical communicator. Yahweh's first commands to the first symbolic humans were to live vegetarian lives, doing no harm. Similarly, the patriarchs, early prophets, and countless generations of prophets or mediums saw, heard, and negotiated with spirits, Yahweh. Yahweh always initiates contact, offering guidance and predictions. Abraham to father a nation, he demanded loyalty, no idols, and no necromantic, murdering mediums. Abraham is amongst many centuries of mediumistic biblical accounts. Abraham traveled to the great tree of Morah and translated This is the great tree of the soothsayer. Mora means medium, psychic, soothsayer, oracle, judge, seer, priestess. It was popular and normal and accepted practice for people to visit a Mora, which is a medium for guidance. In true shamanic tradition, ancient mediums typically guided patrons beneath trees or on mountains. Abraham built altars, believing this enhanced contact with the non-physical communicator. It was believed they resided temporarily in such places. To talk about physical phenomena of Moses, the medium, fleeing Egypt as a wanted man, after accidentally killing a brutal guard to protect a Hebrew slave, Yahweh, the non-physical messenger, initiated contact with Moses. Yahweh told Moses to ask Pharaoh to liberate a large part of his workforce, the disparate Hebrew tribes. Moses learned Yahweh had guided centuries of spiritual prophetic mediumistic leaders, including Moses's father, evidencing the pronounced mediumistic culture. Much religious history is born in the context of successive generations of spiritual mediumship. The non-physical communicator was interchangeably described as the angel of God, an angel, Yahweh, the glory of the Lord, and the Lord, often mistranslated as God, causing the confusion. Yahweh was observable and audible for people to witness, not just Moses, indicating physical mediumistic phenomena. My chapters reveal plentiful examples of the physical mediumship and psycho-spiritual phenomena, combined with mistranslations of the celestial spirit messenger, Yahweh, as God. Moses and Aaron and the 70 elders of Israel went up and saw the God of Israel, Yahweh. They saw God, Yahweh. The Lord Yahweh came down in a pillar of a cloud. He, Yahweh, stood at the entrance of the tent and summoned Aaron, being Yahweh. When a prophet of Yahweh is among you, I reveal myself to him in visions. I speak to him in dreams, but with Moses I speak face to face. And this is what Yahweh said of Moses's physical phenomena. The accounts of visual and audible communications increasingly occurred in the tent of the meeting, and they used to go in and inquiring of the Lord, meaning Yahweh. This is the mistranslations again. Accounts can't be describing anything other than Moses's physical mediumship. The 10 commandments received through psycho-spiritual mediumistic conversations with Yahweh represented a relatively elevated code of conduct. They were given morally superior laws, including the condemnation of all forms of sacrifice and the use of idols. Regarding guiding and predicting the future, yes, this is found in the Bible. Moses had divination stones, which included Urim and Thummim. Yahweh made Moses' brother Aaron a priest because he wasn't a medium. Priesthood became hereditary, but Yahweh's choice of a mediumistic prophet could not be hereditary. Aaron, his brother, wore a garment with small pockets housing the divination stones, which included Urim and Thummim. That was the names of the 2 other stones. These were used to discover Yahweh's will, to guide tribal decision-making, to supplement Yahweh's manifestation and communication. Yes or no answers told them if Yahweh supported a plan or not. And these regularly used sacred lots directed many pivotal decisions made by the evolving Israelite nation. The Hebrews held the experience-based belief that Yahweh conveyed his knowledge of future timing of natural events to protect and guide them, and Yahweh acted through events, including the divination stones, affecting how they fell. Losing the Battle of Ai, this is giving you one example. The Semitic tribes learned it was their punishment as they had a thief amongst them. Casting the divination stones repeatedly, including Urim and Thummim, tribe by tribe was called out to discover the thief's tribe, then clan, then family, and the divination stones leading them finally to the thief. Due to combination of the ancient historic deification of an angelic or spirit messenger and later translators' ignorance of mediumship or their denunciation of mediumship, biblical translations of celestial messengers became interchangeable as spirit and angelic messengers and God. Yahweh appeared, Yahweh spoke, the Lord appeared, the Lord spoke, and God spoke. All became confused together. In the days of antiquity, the spiritual code was immature and undeveloped. Yahweh repeatedly rebuked them, demanding their loyalty from neighboring nations' lower-level spirit messengers, often deified, and idol worshipping, and necromantic mediums who sacrificed people and animals as part of their practice. And the Bible accounts demonstrate spiritual philosophy was dynamically born from and supplemented by frequent incursions of celestial teachers progressing humankind's spirituality from the reprisal of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, to thou shalt not steal or murder, ultimately to the pacifistic compassion Jesus invoked by turning the other cheek. Now, to tell you about the book of Judges. Judges were mediums. It was a succession of 12 mediumistic figures guided the Hebrews in Canaan approximately 1400 to 1000 BC. They followed the mediums Moses and Joshua. They'd passed away, and the predominant judges of this 12 were Deborah, Gideon, Jephthah, and the famous Samson. They typically obtained predictive guidance from Yahweh beneath a tree. They directed tribal leaders, protecting against enemy attacks, and daily they channeled advice to individuals who flocked to them for their mediumship. This was normal practice. They believed Yahweh's punishment of them was to be their enemies. The angel of the Lord, Yahweh, went to Bochim and said, "You have disobeyed me. Your enemies will be thorns in your sides, and their gods will be a snare to you." Reprimanding the populace, the people witnessed Yahweh regularly as a moving, talking, anthropomorphic, cloud-like manifestation, teaching, predicting, and guiding. It reminds me of ectoplasm. This was the era when they were settling in Canaan, and they had forgotten that Yahweh had brought them out of Egypt, and they were losing their loyalty to Yahweh because they were affected by the Baals of their neighbors. Quoting the book of Judges, Deborah, a prophetess, that's what it says in the Bible. Deborah, a prophetess, a medium, was leading Israel at that time. She held course under the palm tree in the highlands of Ephraim. So there's the tree and the mountain, which is common shamanic practice. And the Israelites came to her to receive guidance and predictions. Barak, the general with 10,000 men, he wouldn't go into battle without Deborah, proving his respect for her as Yahweh's voice, which is absolutely amazing. Another judge, Gideon, his mediumistic and psychic guidance saved the people from Midianite enemies. Gideon refused the reward of his family becoming a hereditary monarchy, knowing Yahweh chose only mediumistic successors, and he couldn't do that if it was a hereditary family, because not everyone would be mediumistic. They cried out to Yahweh for help, and Yahweh, the angel of the Lord, came down and sat under the oak in Ophrah, where Gideon was threshing wheat. Now, this is clairvoyance and clairaudience. The angel of the Lord said, he touched, he disappeared. The Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon. Well, what is the literal meaning in Hebrew translation? And the Spirit clothed itself in Gideon, empowering and mediumistically overshadowing the human agent. So there we have physical phenomena and trance and overshadowing. Now, just to give you another example, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah. Now, over the millennia, Yahweh is always the one who initiates the contact, not the other way around. Jephthah was a notorious robber. He became overshadowed and entranced in an altered state of consciousness, just like his predecessors, proving Yahweh selected mediumistic leaders for their ability to see and hear Yahweh rather than their initial moral integrity or spirituality. The below related biblical expressions can only be meaningfully understood in the context of mediumistic conversations with non-physical beings. God spoke, God appeared, the Lord spoke, the Lord appeared, the angel spoke and appeared, the angel of the Lord appeared, or the angel of the Lord was upon him. Now, the original Hebrew is not direct revelation from God. The mediumistic prophets heard, saw, discussed with spirit communicators and entered into trance. And the ancients deemed the angelic communicators to be sufficiently different to physical people. They often deified them as gods, like the Aten cult of ancient Egypt, and Yahweh, who was their non-physical communicator for hundreds and hundreds of years, or described them as angelic messengers. The ancients used the words seer and prophet interchangeably. Today's terminology is mediumship. Some prophets were chosen not for their personalities, but their mediumistic abilities, clairvoyance, clairaudience, trance, and to have their thoughts and actions and leadership inspired, which is claircognizance, by non-physical communicators. So many biblical accounts have detailed descriptions of mediumship. Biblical writers expected future readers to be as familiar with spiritually transformative mediumship as they were. Now let me tell you about John, Jesus's disciple. He was familiar with mediumship and predictions, and he wisely advises, test the spirits. This is the Bible in 1 John. Jesus predicted the closing phase of his spiritual mission, preparing his disciples for their loss of him. He chose apostles John, Peter, and James to witness mediumistic physical phenomena on the Mount of Transfiguration, Mount Tabor. As sitters, they observed and energetically supported the materialization of Moses and Elijah. Jesus' predecessors had passed away many centuries before, proving to the disciples life continues after physical death. Heartened by his discussions with his spirit ancestors, Moses and Elijah, prior to his own physical death, Jesus' face shone. This is physical phenomena. It's a mediumistic manifestation event of ancient spirit prophets, Moses and Elijah. It would have a life-changing impact on onlookers. Ever-evolving spiritual knowledge and progress is born of spiritually transformative mediumship. Soon after, Jesus asked John to accompany him to the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus predicted his arrest and crucifixion. Jesus' predictions and spiritually transformative mediumship, he predicted he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things and be killed, and on the third day to be raised. To prove his future resurrection, Jesus took the disciples up Mount Tabor. They saw the spirits of Moses and Elijah. He said, "Tell no one about the vision until the Son of Man is raised from the dead." Interestingly, Pythagoras, the white-robed ascetic vegetarian, was called the Man, and Jesus called himself the Son of Man. Jesus demonstrated many of Pythagoras' teachings. And strangely to me, orthodoxy interpret Jesus' transfiguration event as Jesus demonstrating he is the Son of God through a virgin birth. But there's many ancient virgin birth accounts in ancient cultures. Virgin births obviously signify the exceptional uniqueness of an individual. There's examples in ancient Egypt. Ra was born of Virgin Net, and Horus born of Virgin Isis. Buddha was born of Virgin Maya, and in Italy, Romulus and Remus were born of Virgin Rhea Silvia. And ancient Assyrian, Greek, and Cypriot and Carthage art depict virgin births. All versions of present-day Bibles sadly display the 15th and 16th century mistranslated prohibitions of mediumship. It led to the witch hunts and the merciless torture and burning at the stake of many innocent people. In summary, historic and modern-day translators wrongly inserted the word medium instead of necromancer. Prohibitions in the Bible were against necromancy, as mentioned. In the background to this, in Canaan, necromancers sought to resuscitate dead bodies using child and animal sacrifice, and using the entrails for manipulative, evil, magical rituals for selfish ends. And all of this was what was denounced by Yahweh. And the same biblical mistranslations sadly continue today. Tragically, orthodoxy sustained biblical mistranslations freeze in time historic misinformation and distortions. Incredibly, the same ongoing mistranslations which still impact today's society fuel the frenzied torture and burning of tens of thousands of innocents in Europe and the USA between the 15th and 17th century. This continuing, centuries-old deception causes condemnation, prejudice, and fear of loaded words such as medium, trance, and spiritualist even today. Mistranslations are made worse when historic and contemporary Orthodox devotees are taught the numerous biblical books and authors spanning so many centuries wrote the exact word of God in the Bible. No thought is given to the leaders of man-made, power-grabbing church councils' decisions about translations and permitted doctrines and articles of faith. Inevitably, some religious flocks denounce mediumship, the prophet's spiritual gift, which facilitated the receipt from celestial messengers the very foundations of biblical spiritual evolution. Mistranslations denounce the many Bible scribes' copious accounts of mediumship, clairvoyantly, clairaudiently negotiating with manifested celestial spirit messengers, whether it be Yahweh, Moses, or Elijah, and of trance and psychic abilities and predictions and precognitive dreams, as either false accounts or orthodoxy permits such phenomena in ancient times only, and this creates a disconnect in beliefs today. Biblical translators should remain diligently faithful to the original biblical writers' accounts, not judgmentally mistranslate the past to impact the present and the centuries in between. Mistranslations reflect orthodoxy's opposition to mediumship, as direct access to spiritually elevated celestial communicators challenge their domination and control over people's minds, adversely deceiving all future generations of trusting, unsuspecting followers. Orthodoxy protected its monopoly on power over devotees' beliefs, so people would turn to them and recite man-made politico-religious doctrines and creeds rather than to spiritually elevated non-physical messengers. Orthodox mistranslations cause a cognitive disconnect in unsuspecting followers' reasoning, and this continues to today, cutting devotees off from spiritually elevated guidance, from spiritually elevated communicators through spiritually elevated mediumship. They are left unaware that this spiritual gift continues through the ages and globe, and in the right hands, it's to comfort, guide, and progress humankind's spirituality. Orthodoxy's mistranslations condemn all mediumship, including spiritually orientated mediumship, whether it be in ancient times to present day and ongoing, creating fear and intolerance, and they invoke 1 Samuel 28. Now, thousands of historic psychics, spiritual mediums, spiritual healers, including herbalists, were tortured and burned, and many today are still falsely suspected of involvement with black magic, evil spirits, devil worship, sorcery, and demons. This creates for me a smoking gun, a powder keg for possible future generations' intolerance. And just for some clarification, King Saul, pining for the recently dead Prophet Samuel's psychic mediumistic guidance during wartime, disobediently reverted to a foreign idol-worshipping female necromancer, utilizing animal and possible child sacrifice and sorcery. She was from an idolatrous culture, and he used her to contact the Samuel in spirit. The idolater practiced perverse, barbaric, corrupted forms of divination and mediumship, using human and non-human sacrificial murder to consult corpse entrails. And this is the mistranslations of Endor, which is referred to when people condemn mediumship today. and have done through the centuries. Contacting the prophet Samuel in spirit, Samuel predicted Saul's death in battle the next day. So the mistranslations distort the way, and weighted with Samuel's tragic predictive accuracy of Saul's death was used by orthodoxy to claim the Bible condemns mediumship and the punishment is death. Well, Samuel lived in the 11th century. He was a prophet, a medium, and he followed the long-held clairvoyant and clairaudient tradition, as we've mentioned. And to correct this account, enraged before death, the prophet Samuel had condemned King Saul for Saul's persistent disobedience to Yahweh's instructions communicated through Samuel. Samuel had told King Saul Yahweh would no longer guide Saul's rulership through Samuel, nor through any of the nation's many other mediums, nor through the divination stones. It was a mediumistic culture. The Bible translators repeatedly wrongly inserted the word medium instead of necromancer when necromancing murderers of people and animals for corpse entrails using idolatrous objects were condemned by Yahweh. Necromancers' idolatrous objects were called obos or ob, namely foreign household gods and idols. King Saul had said bar ob in the ancient Hebrew, which is idol, requesting the necromancer conjure up Samuel by use of her idol, which further enraged Samuel in spirit. So really, Saul just did absolutely everything wrong. And that's what the story was about. It wasn't condemning mediumship. And originally, Elohim or El was the umbrella term for all otherworldly communicators. The blending into one and confusion between God, the divine, and the non-physical communicators is revealed by tracing the ancient original use of the term Elohim. Initially, Elohim described experiences of all otherworldly, non-physical communicators, ghosts, angels, spirits, being transitioned humans, Yahweh, the messenger of the Lord, and God. So also Yahweh may have been the name for many celestial messengers, amalgamated and all called Yahweh, as Yahweh communicated over many centuries, exhibiting different moral standards. So were there many Yahwehs, many spirit messengers. These separate entities were merged and fused into one as God, the divine, by translators' mistranslations. Importantly, Yahweh, the Spirit, messenger of the Lord, was mistranslated as God, Lord, divine, through linguistic ignorance and orthodoxy's condemnation of mediumship, creating deliberate manipulative confusion and control. Spiritual mediumship is a potential unifier of religious beliefs, of spirituality, through communication with the highest and the purest, spiritually elevated messengers. And thinking of Swedenborg, he defined some angels as spiritually evolved, old human souls over many incarnations. And regarding prediction in modern times, before I cast my divination dice, like Moses, Aaron, and the prophets, I pray to God, the angels and spirit guides and helpers, and then I cast them for different future time periods. Myself and others find them very accurate. I call them my angel guidance dice. So Moses and Jesus the Shamans supports those who know mediumship is the greatest, most healing bereavement counselor as we talk, cry, and laugh with our departed spirit loved ones. My pages evidence that spiritually transformative mediumship with elevated celestial communicators underlie much of humankind's ever-evolving spiritual beliefs, particularly the revealed religions. Here are some happy mediums today, and they're not witches and psychics, channeling loving conversations, evidencing survival, helping bereaved, and channeling healing on all levels. To conclude in the words of Silver Birch, who spoke regularly through an entranced Maurice Barbanel in the 20th century in the Han and Swaffer Home Circle in London, UK, life is not physical or material. Life is spirit, and spirit is life. Wherever there is life, there is spirit, and wherever there is spirit, there is life. You will imbibe this knowledge and you'll use it to help others, As you strive to express the highest, so you will attract to your aid beings from our world who love you and through you help others. And I'd like to just end with angels can inspire our thoughts.